going to share my screen because I just made some notes, but I really am going to keep this more of just an open flow of communication, open conversation, I should say, when it comes to the grand scheme of this thing called life, if you will. So I titled today, I don't even recall what I put into the chat. But as I was writing my notes, I wanted to sit there and just bring up basically what are we possibly forgetting? Not just at this time of year when, yeah, we can all become very overwhelmed with all of the holiday prep and or focusing on other things other than ourselves, but there are a lot of other points in time where we can very easily forget about certain things that do make up our ultimate foundation that will provide to us the opportunity to grow, not just within, of course, the program that Natalia and I work with you guys on, but also just within ourselves. So a couple of little bullet points that I wanted to speak through as opposed to speak to are some thoughts that I have a feeling we may lose sight on as we make our way through, again, not just our program, but this thing called life. Number one, truly, it kind of filters into the two other points that I wanted to talk to too, is basically our truths. And when I say our truths, that can be a number of different things, but ultimately what I want it to stand for in today's discussion is just who you truly are, not who you think you are, not who other people think you are or say you are, but who you truly are. And then the third point that it brings to light is, do we even truly know who we are? And within that statement, are we nurturing that person that we wish for us to be, or we think we are, or are trying to figure out, right? So, for example, our truths. Who are we? Now, Erica, Shallon, Stacy, we are, of course, we are who we are, right? But do you even know who you are at this point in time after you've made your way through all of these different phases of life? And a lot of times we sit there and all we can remember somehow is who Jennifer is, who I am, who I still sometimes think I am is this girl that was growing up in Carle Place, New York, which is close to the city and some sort of an urbanite. But in reality, that is over 15 years ago, who I was, not who I am today, because now all of a sudden I have these two children that are my shadow, and I am divorced somehow in amongst 15 years. I got married, had children, got divorced, and I'm going through the motions of all of those things. But how can I only sit there and remember that other person I was prior to that entire life that I have created up until this point in time, right? So my truth at this point in time is still kind of up in the air as to who I am, what I am, and where I'm wishing to go. But that's the beauty in it, is that we're continually growing, evolving, and learning. But what are we forgetting on a day-to-day basis is how to sit there and either continually search for ourselves without getting distracted by all of the outside influences, or live within who we found, who we are happy to be, and who we wish to continue to be. Does anybody have any insight into that at their current time right now? Don't all jump at once. Don't all speak at once. I'll move on. So again, like I had said, we can all get very distracted by not just the time of year that it is, because yes, we can very easily become overwhelmed by all of the tasks we have to accomplish and forget to take care of ourselves, which is a lot of part of this program too, is making sure that we are taking care of ourselves, but also remembering who we are and what 2 feet we wish to stand on. So that means we have to sit there and nurture our relationship with ourselves. And how do we do that? We have to sit there and take some time every day. And I'm not saying an exorbitant amount of time. I'm saying 15 minutes worth of time, 5 minutes in the beginning of our day or at the end of our day, or if you can, somewhere in the middle of the day, sit there and reflect upon, are we doing everything within our power to remain truthful to who we are, what we wish to be, and what we wish to stand for? Or are we just going through the motions? How do you sit there and take that time? Number one, set the reminder. Set a reminder on your phone. You know, we sit there and we can set reminders for everything else. We can set reminders to sit there and remind ourselves to take our children where they need to go, or eat our breakfast, or get to the gym, or create a plan for ourselves. But do we set the reminders to sit there and really, truly nurture ourselves through all different avenues? No. And I'm going to speak a little bit against certain things that we do speak to on other occasions in the program too. Because yes, is the primary goal of this journey to create the best versions of ourselves by creating a look for ourselves that will make us potentially happy within ourselves. Yes. But how can we be truly happy within ourselves, within this physique that we're creating through proper nutritional guidance and daily movement, without understanding what that person truly is, who that person truly is? Have you guys, and I'm going to ask you individually, have you guys actually sat there and thought about, are you exactly where you wish to be in life? Are you who you want to be? Or are you trying to be something of a stereotype, stigma, or facade that other people have dictated for us? Do I have to call out at you? Or are you guys going to sit there and voluntarily offer some insight into that? Cool. I'm going to sit there and call out on you then.
Jen.
Oh, okay. In the
what
chat.
was, say the question again?
Serena, you're having a hard
I'm pretty
time
sure
hearing, picking up background noise. That's odd. Maybe Serena, pop out and come back in, because there's not a single, there is no noise in the background at all anywhere behind me. So I'm not sure what you would be hearing. Is anybody else hearing background noise?
I think somebody's muted.
Oh, does somebody have? Okay, because I was gonna say, I'm not hearing any background noise either. But are you guys are you hearing me in particular?
Wednesday likes to collect rats.
Hearing you and like
So
somebody with a child.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I did not realize that. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm muting you all. And then, is that better? Serena, is that better? Zoom has been doing this weird thing that if you don't press your volume, yes, okay, cool. If you don't actually press a volume key to sit there and I can't hear you guys unless I click on a button somewhere on my keyboard. Okay, good. Because I was gonna say, I don't have any kids home and I don't have any music playing in the background, so I don't know what you're talking about. I actually tried to bring my daughter home from school with me today after her little holiday party, and she didn't want to have it. She's just not feeling 100%, but she wished to push through. So, like, okay, cool, that's cool. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. Who wants to volunteer first as far as talking about? Oh, Shallon, go ahead. Shallon had to step away. Who
I can volunteer.
Okay, who is speaking right now?
That's Casey.
Hey, so excited to have you on. So excited.
I haven't been on in a while.
I know. Okay, then definitely go shoot.
The whole "who am I" question.
Yeah.
I think I'm a lost woman trying to figure out who I am right now, wanting to have a midlife crisis, but can't have a midlife crisis because I have a mortgage to pay for and a family to raise. But if I had my way, I'd quit everything in order to dive deep to find myself. But yeah, I think I'm still in the search of trying to figure out who I am again and figure out, my life outside of my kids and work and my husband.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's a big, big problem we all as women run into when we have invested ourselves so heavily into everybody else but ourselves.
Yeah, I'm everyone for the family. I'm the financial planner, I'm the shopper, I'm the chef, I'm the everything. Right?
And
so
that
then it's
comes
like,
from
who am I when I don't want to be everything?
Yeah. And I've mentioned that on a few of the different things that was actually one of the struggles I experienced going through my marriage and then divorce itself, was because you give up your entire technical identity, right? When you decide to connect with this other person and create this family, it seems to be that the woman has to give up her identity. And we within the program have made the conscious effort to not lose sight of who we are. But at the same time, one of the other things, which is another bullet point I bring to light further down, is at the same time as trying to figure out who we are and nurture ourselves and recreate who we are outside of that family unit, outside of being that mom, outside of being that wife, we also still have to nurture those relationships, because otherwise they won't be successful either. And we made that conscious decision to create those relationships too. So it's finding that balance. And then, is it okay to finally just accept that we are the wife to this person, we are the significant other to this person, we are the mom to this person, and we can have a completely separate person outside of it. And I think that's what a lot of us need to recognize and realize, is that we can't obviously disconnect from those other people and those other relationships. We have to nurture them, but we can have like an alter ego, if you will, where we go off and we do our own thing on occasion. And that's one of those self-care points that we can really, really create for ourselves, is consciously choosing to take time, remove yourself from those other positions, and invest back in yourself. And I want to sit there and kind of pull ourselves even away from the entire fitness journey and understand that going to the gym is definitely time away, and it's self-care, and it's investing in yourself to become the best version of yourself, the strongest version of ourselves. But at the same time, is that creating an identity that you are wishing to be that person, or is there something else? So that's that I would really, really love for everybody to think about for a minute, because a lot of times, and I've said this before, but I wouldn't use the words lost just because I feel like words have so much power. Nonetheless, yes, while trying to get through the daily humdrum, I think it's so important to nurture ourselves through time with friends or activities that feed our soul and not everyone else for a change. I love that for sure. And that's why I'm saying actually disconnect. Like, can we actually disconnect from those relationships and spend some time alone? And within those alone moments, figure out who we may be, right? So back to what I was saying is, we put so much emphasis specifically within our program to make sure that we get our workouts in and make sure we have our meals prepped and make sure that we're doing this, that, and the third to be successful in that part of our life. And then we have this ultimate thought process that, well, the gym is our escape, the gym is our time, the gym is our therapy. I truly, truly dislike that statement that the gym is your therapy. And I'll explain why. Because what it's doing is giving you the distraction to not truly face what needs to be faced. It's giving you that time away from everything when you possibly should be facing some other hard truths within yourself and within your situation that need attention to, as opposed to distracting yourself from it. That's why I don't like to use the gym as therapy. And which is why I would love to encourage you guys to sit there and share if you have made that statement. Number one, you can sit there and just throw up in the chat if you have, or you can unmute yourself and say that you have made that statement before, because I have heard it many, many, many times. And I've had to sit there and bring to the front of the conversation with that person that it's not your therapy, it's your distraction from what should actually be your therapy, which is facing the truths of the life you're living that need to be faced. So does anybody wish to share any thoughts on
I'll
that?
share something, Jen.
Yes,
Not
very nice.
more on the latter part of what you were saying, to like, if you're not facing what's really going on, it doesn't even really matter if you gain the aesthetic that you're looking for, if you're on the outside, if you're not genuinely happy with the things that are going on, and if there's some mental blocks going on, then, or if you have body dysmorphia you're suffering from, which I have a lot of times in the past, it doesn't even matter what you look like, you're still going to be stuck in that judgment area in your own head. And until you really can get that mindset right, you won't be able to even notice the achievements or anything that you're making externally.
Exactly. Thank you. I couldn't have said it any better, which brings me to number 5. When I'm speaking to you guys, removing yourself from whatever potential situations that are distracting us and making us forget what ultimately our goal in this life is, which is to be happy. Taking the time to understand that it's not all about fitness, physique, aesthetic, so on and so forth, but wellness. And wellness comes from the inside out. Wellness comes from facing certain demons that have been plaguing us that we may not even recognize 100% without kind of speaking through it with like-minded individuals or just outside sources. We have a couple comments I just want to read real quick in the chat. Casey, I've used that wording, but after talking to you, found I mean more of a stress relief. After a tough work day, heavy weights sometimes help. That is 100% accurate. The endorphins it pushes absolutely reduce stress. And then the serotonin levels that we see the increase of with lifting weights, 100% stress relief for sure, but definitely not therapy. And then Manna said, I think a lot of women want to believe it's therapy because if it wasn't for the gym, they'd never take any time for themselves. I've been guilty of that as well in the past, which is factual, and it's become acceptable that the gym is okay to run to and basically run away from your family. And I'm saying that, listen, have I run away from my kids? Hell yeah, like literally, like run into the other room and lock the door, literally run away. If I wasn't divorced and I had, an adult in the house, I'd probably be running out the door many times. But again, because the gym has become an acceptable place to resort to, as opposed to any other potential options, but let's kind of call a spade a spade. Somewhere along the line, it was acceptable for, and I'm going to sit there and say men in particular, it was acceptable for, and it still is acceptable for men to kind of go and park their asses at a bar, right? And go have a beer to get away from their family. That was okay. And women who sat there and chose to kind of remove themselves and find themselves, they would be looked at in a different light and judged, and opinions would be formed. So then we were always reaching for these other opportunities, other options. And then somehow it came into creating these groups of women that all did the same thing together. But if you did have children, your children were in tow with you, because again, it was acceptable as long as you were still nurturing and caring for your counterparts, which again, I'm going to speak to a little bit in a few minutes more. But I would love to encourage you guys to kind of, do you take time away from all of the other schedules that we speak to? Do you actually take time to reinvest in yourself and not getting your hair done, not getting your nails done, not getting the facials and massages that Jill had brought to our attention last week as far as self-care? Do you take time to just kind of be within yourself? Or is it always sat there and compounded with other chores that you have to take care of? Because honestly, listen, hair, nails, those types of things for certain people can feel like a chore. Trust, I color my own hair because I can't sit within a hair salon because it feels like a chore for me. I feel like I could be doing something else. You just said your husband just came home yesterday after work, too tired to spend time with the kids, and got a call from his friends, but had all of a sudden had the energy to go have a drink with his friends. Exactly. And that's acceptable, right? But if we sat there and said we were so exhausted, but we got the phone call and we were dragging ass, but somehow drummed up and rallied ourselves together, we would be kind of frowned upon in the general. And are tides turning? Are things changing as far as other people's perspectives? I'd like to say yes. But again, are we ourselves the reason why certain things are acceptable and certain things are not? Are we our own worst enemy? Are we the ones that get in our way? And that goes back to speaking your truth, speaking those hard truths also to other people, and truly vocalizing what's right for you, but may not be right for the other person. Case in point, and some people looked at me today and was just like, I can't believe you just said that. Real quick, we teach other people how to treat us. Exactly, Brianna. So today was my daughter's holiday party at her school. I was one of the lucky moms to be able to go and attend this holiday party and be present, which was wonderful. They only chose 5 moms out of the class. Apparently, we were supposed to kind of coordinate some sort of group effort for an arts and crafts, and these moms threw out a group text last week, right smack in the middle of a work day. And I immediately muted. And guys, this is how I know that WhatsApp group chat can get overwhelming too, because it happens on the back end. It was 76 messages within 20 minutes. I did not catch up. I did not even attempt to catch up. I showed up today. I looked at every single mother in there and I said, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you guys were talking about within the group chat. I didn't take any time to try and figure it out either, because this time of year, I could not sit there and catch up on any additional socializing platforms. So I said, I apologize if there was any disconnect. I will help however I can inside the classroom, but anything you wanted from me outside of the classroom wasn't happening. I didn't have the time. I didn't have the wherewithal to sit there and invest anywhere else. And when I said that to certain people, they looked at me and they're like, I wish I could say that. And I said, but if it's true, if you're going to sit there and cause yourself anxiety, get yourself overstressed because we feel like we have to keep up to a standard that has been put in front of us by somebody else, what good are we doing ourselves and everybody else around us? I knew farewell my time between last week, the initial text, until today, there was not a single minute to spare to try and figure out how to do an arts and crafts inside a classroom. But listen, I would become with you a computer paper and whatever colored pencils I could gather from inside my house. That was it. But I knew my daughter and I knew every single kid inside of there had anything they needed. So with that being said, the other mothers looked at me and they're like, wow, why couldn't we sit there and just say that to ourselves? And instead they admitted that they got themselves overworked, overly stressed, had anxiety attacks because they were trying to put together this grand plan for a 45-minute arts and crafts. It doesn't have to be that. We put these pressures on ourselves when we don't have to. But why are we putting these pressures on ourselves instead of just speaking truthfully and saying, you know what, that's going to cause me too much stress. I can't do this. Or I want to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Why do we sit there and deny ourselves our truth? Exactly, Serena. It's just not worth it. It wasn't worth the anxiety that it was going to cause me. So I had to disconnect from it and just know that I was lucky enough to be able to share the moments that I was able to share today. Casey, I've read how men need to recharge their testosterone after work, so they sit and recharge their batteries after work. But women seem more stressed going home after work because they come home to more stuff. I'm still trying to get my kids to find their father and not walk past him and find me. And that would be something, Casey, to where I would advise you to stop responding when your kids are coming directly at you. And instead of even saying, ask your father, ignore. They'll get the hint. They'll eventually learn that if mommy's not responding, we need something from somebody. Let's go seek our other parent. Trust me. And it's a lot easier said than done, because will the tears start? Will the screaming start? It will. That's what they make earbuds for. And I will 110% guarantee that Natalia would say the same thing and that she does the same thing. Those AirPods go in and it's like, go find your father. It's okay. So if you, on weekdays, Casey, you are the only one that is available in the later part of the days after work. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it sucks.
Oh, your husband's not home. Okay.
Yeah, and usually in the past years, he's always worked Saturday and Sunday, but he's kind of given himself a bit of a break. So it was like we would be single parents until like Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
So I think they just got used to, like, they'd have him for what, a half hour before school, because, you know, dad can manage to sleep until 30 minutes before needing to get the kids to school and still get them out the door instead of hang out with them. So it's been multi-years of them just knowing, you know, find mom. So it's trying, it's slowly, they're slowly learning to change their mindset, right? It's teaching the whole family to change their mindset or figure it out yourself. Like one starting to cook by himself.
Well, that's what it is. And they're growing through themselves as well. And as they grow, of course, they're maturing and able to handle more responsibility. What I would actually ask you to do is to write out the schedule, write out and really put in front of them, because your daughter is 6, if I remember, because our savages are the same age.
They're just weeks apart.
So they can read. So put out a schedule and say, during this time, that time, and this time, this is when you can come to me, and place that right on the refrigerator or wherever everybody can see it. And during this time, when daddy's home, this time and that time, And have the conversation openly with your husband prior to saying, okay, this is what I need to sit there and be the best wife I can be for you, because I'm going to get to my last, another point that I really, really want to hone in on, because it's something that was brought to my attention a few times in just the past few days. Speak to your husband first and say, listen, this is what I need in order to be the best wife to you. This is what I need to make sure that I am the best person within this home that you all can rely on the way you need me to. So how can we sit there and really divvy up the responsibility to where it's fair and I don't lose my shit more often than not?
Fair enough. He
And-
does wash dishes more because of those conversations. So we're slowly making progress with
Yes, I'm here for that. Because what I was going, there's one thing that I've noticed that a lot of us, when we invest in ourselves, when we invest in our self-care routines, and we invest in reconnecting with our own selves, this is another thing that we could potentially forget. And we forget about the relationships that need attention too. We're spending a lot of time on the relationship with ourselves, but we have also, like I said, consciously decided to be invested in relationships with our significant others, our spouses, or family members. But somehow we stop nurturing those relationships while we're nurturing ourselves. And we have to circle back and make sure we're taking the time with those people that are surrounding us on a daily basis and nurturing that relationship as well. And I will honestly say that that is something that I potentially regret as I was making my way through my marriage at certain points in time. I became so heavily invested in my choice to compete that I did not nurture my marriage. And I admit that wholeheartedly. Was that an obstacle my ex-husband and I did go through at one point in time, many years prior to the actual divorce? That, that should have been a foreshadowing, if you will. But I admitted it, and we sought out help and realized that, listen, it's a daily practice. It's daily work to nurture your relationships with the people that are surrounding you day in and day out. So not only are we nurturing ourselves, creating ourselves, learning ourselves, and doing what's best for ourselves, but we do have to sit there and look at the other people we're sharing every day with. Who are these people we're sharing every day with? And understand that they too need the attention from you. And that attention doesn't always have to be pandering or catering to that person. It could be those conversations to be like, this is what I need from you. And then how do we sit there and create the foundation within ourselves as a unit to make sure everything else around us is flowing copacetically, right? Because we can, again, become so distracted and forgetful that we need to nurture even the relationships with our parents. If we have a good relationship with our parents, and I say that loosely, nurture the relationships with our siblings, not every day, if our siblings obviously don't live with us, but we do have to put attention into those relationships we wish to continue having with other people. We have to nurture the relationships with our children. We can very easily become overwhelmed by their behavior patterns and their sports or extracurriculars that we forget to nurture the loving relationship we need to have with them, which could be a simple 3-minute conversation and a hug and a kiss. That's what we have to sit there and also remove from our thought process, is that it doesn't have to be hours upon hours of time reconnecting with our significant other or our spouses. It doesn't have to be 2, 3, 4 hours worth of a date night. It could be a half hour before going to bed. It could be 15 minutes outside of the kids running around loosely. Be like, you know what, we're just going to go in our bedroom and shut the door for 15 minutes while you guys go play or do whatever you got to do, run ragged, beat the shit out of each other, whatever you got to do for 15 minutes. Daddy and I need to reconnect. And tell your kids that if they're old enough to understand, allow them to have insight, because you know what, you're also then teaching them how to nurture relationships and instead of how to disconnect from people. So, man, I just want to read what you had said. My husband is a physician, and when the kids go to him for anything, he just says he's never learned that in school, so go to mom. I literally tell mine now, okay, I'm ready for your questions, and you have 1 hour to get things handled. No point in saying anything to my husband. He's in a me mentality. You have one up on me. Respect for you. Which one up, Manna? Are you talking to the divorce? My happily divorced situation? No. Your relationship with your husband, again, is we are all very individual within the relationships we have circulating around us. And is there opportunities in one household that dish part, Casey, you're one up with your husband doing the dishes for you. everything is a work in progress and everything does require that open flow of communication. You guys know, if you have been on the onboarding call, communication is my number one bullet point. And if there is one thing I have learned through this thing called life, communication, communication, communication with every single person out there that you are wishing to be a part of their lives. Communication, communication. And that could possibly be the one and only thing we could talk about today. And what we're forgetting to pay attention to is our communication skills. Are we good at communicating? And now I'm going to go off on other tangents, which means I should probably make that the book part 2, is how to communicate good communication skills, and how we talk to ourselves, of course, number 1. But so Casey has gotten her husband to do the dishes for her through proper communication skills and tools, which comes from also allowing our counterparts the insight into what we do need, which again is that flow, is that ebb and flow. So it's still, we're speaking to how we are caring for ourselves. It's how we're speaking to ourselves. It's speaking to how we need to show up as our best selves through the nurturing of relationships with everybody else that surrounds us. So with that little tidbit, I'll go into my list, which I've totally gone off on tangents. Making smarter choices, not making it harder on ourselves. A lot of times we have a tendency to make it so much harder on ourselves by taking on that responsibility of everything under the sun instead of giving out responsibility to everybody who's within our, listen, ladies, our children, regardless of how old they are, they learn and they are products of their environment through teachings from us. I started to teach my kids how to clean as soon as they could walk. I gave them paper towels at 1 year old, and then I started giving them Clorox wipes as they made their way to 2 years old. You make a mess, you wipe it up. Was I afraid of chemicals on them? No, because I'm pretty sure my mother stuck us in baths of bleach. So I was not afraid of chemicals at all because of the way my mother, and I know I turned out, okay, do I have some quirks here? Sure. I don't have a 3rd ear growing and I don't have any extra eyeballs. So I'm assuming the chemicals didn't do any harm to me. However, again, everybody who surrounds us, they learn from what we allow them to see, hear, and do by us and for us or to us. So it is our responsibility to make things easier on ourselves by making smarter choices. Now, does that mean kind of sucking it up and realizing that you're going to have to forego some control? Yeah. Which I know a lot of the ladies in this group are type A personalities, very, very organized, very straightforward thinking. And I will say control freaks. You like to have control. We have to loosen the reins a little bit. We have to let go a little bit because we're making it harder on ourselves by holding on so tightly to these choices. When all it's doing is causing us more stress because we are also pigeonholing ourselves into this thought process that things have to be X, Y, and Z, and they have to be a certain way and completely boxed in to this standard when it doesn't have to be that way. You know, as soon as you open up a little bit to realize that, all right, so it's not exactly how I would do it, but you know what, it's getting done. That's what matters. So let's not forget that there's not just one way to do things. There's many, many different ways, and accepting the other people around us for who they are and how they would handle those things is key. And then that comes into number 7, which is understanding the why behind the choices. We have to dig deep within ourselves to understand why we've created these thought processes within ourselves. Why do we hold on so tight? Why do we have these control thought processes? Why do we feel the need to control every situation? Is it because we were disappointed in the past? Is it because we grew up in a chaotic situation in our homes? Was it because whatever the case may be? Very easily could be. But we need to when I speak to spending time alone and not in the gym, not getting your nails done, not getting your hair did, like spending some time alone to really sit there and dissect why we have made the choices we have made, and then figuring out who we truly are now at this phase of life, as opposed to who we think we still are from 15 years ago. Guilty. It does require some hard truths to ourselves. And those hard truths can be painful, but then they can also be so amazingly enlightening. So with that being said, does anybody have anything to offer? Again, I just sat here and wobbled on for 40 minutes. No, nobody likes to talk as much as I do, huh?
I'll say
Meditation.
this, Jen, my fiance leaves for work for days at a time because he's a pilot. So I get stuck with the baby for days and I'm up all night. And so it's really hard sometimes. But what I do when he gets back from his trips is I make sure I leave. Like, here you go, out the door. I'll go for a drive. I'll go get my iced coffee. I'll go roam the aisles in Target. Like, I'll just leave just to have that mental break from the baby, from being at home, from chores, for days at a time. So that's something I do whenever I get a chance.
Good, because you know what, that does allow you that time to regather your thoughts, and it also gives you time to appreciate everybody that you do have in your corner fighting for you, right? Taking time away, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I truly encourage you guys too, if you have the opportunity, take a night away. Book yourself, even if it's a hotel room, a town away, do it. I've done it. It's beautiful. It is glorious. When was the last time, and this is specifically for my moms, when was the last time you were able to wake up and not be on somebody else's schedule? Hearing crickets. I hear crickets.
I tend to ignore my children on Saturday morning and try to just sleep through anything, or I give them
Oh.
screens and I fall back to sleep because I haven't scheduled sports yet because I hate sports on weekend mornings.
Oh, and they do. They creep in. They creep in fast and
I've got
furious.
2 kids trying to creep more in, and I'm just like, I haven't wanted to handle more on my plate. And so I've avoided putting them in more stuff, but now I've got a chunk during the week, which is also just as exhausting because I'm on duty all the time. It's trying to balance. It's trying to balance the fact that you want to give your kids every opportunity there is. You want to find those 20 minutes where you could sit with each kid every day and have that little touch base. But I also remind myself that kids are not roommates I got to pick. And I don't necessarily have interests that they have. Like my boys have more interests that my husband has. And so I'm trying to figure out how to connect with them a little bit more now too, especially as my oldest one turns 12 in a few weeks. And it's just like, okay, he's going to be a teenager soon. How do I connect with someone that I like? I don't code. I don't do video games. You know what I mean? Besides me constantly reminding him that I'm there at any moment that he needs to talk, just say, Mom, I need you to focus. I need to ask you questions, like, because he knows I can get distracted by the other ones. So I've given him clear sentences that if he needs my attention and it doesn't seem like I'm stopping to give it to him, it's like, just be very forceful with your words and say, Mom, I need you to stop. I need to talk to you. And that'll make my ears click and be like, oh, shoot, he hasn't done it yet, but I'm trying to work on that level of communication with,
Nancy,
with one of them.
have you spoken to him about, maybe, is there like any sort of music that the two of you connect on to where the two of you can literally just jump in the car, go for a ride, go grab, like Maddie had said, an iced coffee together, like doesn't have to be an activity. Could be just something to where you guys get in the car together and he sits
I
shotgun.
had a coworker telling me that just running to like the Tim Hortons and grabbing a donut with my kid
Yeah.
would be enough of a doing
Yeah.
something with them. And I hadn't actually thought of something as simple.
Yeah.
But last night I was able to leave the other 2 quickly with the babysitter as I drove him to his coding class. And if I do that on the weekend when he usually goes, then it's a few minutes where we can kind of connect in the car by ourselves. But I do forget that something as simple as just hopping in a car and going to the, either the corner store or the coffee shop, and well, he would love Starbucks. Those, I forget that sometimes it is as simple as
So
those
simple. We
5-minute little
overcomplicate
things
it.
that they enjoy. But yeah, no, he likes some decent music. And so usually I'll try to record him when he's just dancing in the kitchen after I finally bought a HomePod, after dreading the kids being able just to yell at it to, spew out music of their choice.
The other thing too is I encourage you guys, like I do with my children, what I do is I schedule mommy daughter dates and mommy son dates. And we literally go to the diner and we just sit at the diner. Because in New York, we've got, I might be a little biased, but we got the best diners. Anywho, we, just spending that time eating a meal without the other one interjecting. And I'll just have to either get a babysitter or have my parents pop in or something. And it's 40 minutes, 45 minutes max. It's a quick meal, but it's just having that one-on-one time with them makes a huge difference. And they get really excited about it. My son is 12 and my daughter is 6. My son gets, oh, it's mommy, dad, it's mommy Sunday. It's mommy Sunday. Really excited. So those little things, we stop overcomplicating everything. There's no need to overcomplicate everything. It takes the smallest little bit of attention to really nurture those relationships that I was speaking to. So, all right, guys. Well, I thank you guys for your time today. I appreciate you guys showing up and sharing today with me. If you guys need anything at all, you can always sit there and reach out to me at any point in time to ask any questions through the app or email me, please. Otherwise, I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your holidays if I don't speak to you beforehand, but I'm sure you will be. And Stacy, you are going to hang on. So everybody else, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to stop recording. And if you guys could please pop out. Stacy, you stay on.
I am. Can you hear me?